Hello and welcome back to Overbooked. I'm Amanda and we are doing our January wrap-up. It's February 1st, 2022. Holy crap. I just want you guys to all take a second and appreciate that we've all gone 2 years into a pandemic and we've survived. So, applause. So this year, 2022, I had a lot of goals, well, pretty loose goals that I wanted to do, and one of those was to not have a reading book number goal. So in order to get my Goodreads badge, I set my reading goal at 5 and I got it. I've read 5 books this year, so that's good, and I'm really trying to focus on what I want to read and what I'm enjoying reading and whatever. So I think this month was a pretty rocky start, I'm not gonna lie. I think I had the same situation happen to me last year where January was just a slow month for me reading wise. You come out of this break of not doing anything for 2 weeks and it's kind of really hard to get back into a schedule, at least for me. So I definitely was not reading a ton this month, which I am fine with. I was actually very fine with it. I wasn't trying to force myself to read. I was enjoying the books I was reading, but I didn't just feel like reading. I'm okay with that, and I'm happy with it because I've already read 5 books this year, so it doesn't matter. Let's get into the books that I read this month. Let's talk about them. Let's dish. Let's enjoy. So the first book that I finished in January was The Heart Principle by Helen Wong. This is the last book in her romance series, and I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as I liked The Bride Test or The Kiss Quotient. I kind of just didn't really, I don't know. I thought this one was, I don't know what it was. There was just some really weird pacing to me, and I don't know. I just couldn't get into a lot of the other side characters, and which I know is not the point, but I'm very character driven, so I really like when I like all of the characters, okay? The Heart Principle follows our main characters, who the names are always escaping me, you know that. So we have our female main character. She is a professional violinist, and she's getting this mental break. She can't play the violin and she can't get through a song, and so she's really struggling, and she thinks that she might be I don't know what it is. It's not autistic. Maybe it is autistic. I don't remember. But she is seeing a therapist, and she thinks that she has issues and that she's always masking because social interactions always exhaust her, and she feels like she always has these expectations that she has to meet for her family. And at the same time, her father is sick, and so her and her sister and her mom are trying to take care of him, and it's just really stressful. It's a hard time. Our other main character is whatever his name is. He is coming out of a major surgery, and he hasn't had a serious relationship in a long time, and hasn't had intimate relationships in a while. So he wants to dive back in, and our female main character just wants one night of just, getting some steam out, or what's it? Letting off some steam. She wants to just get steamy. And so they find each other on a dating app, and they end up just kind of chatting and texting and hanging out, and the book kind of follows their relationship. I don't know. I read this because I was on a whole romance kick at the end of 2021, and I think at this point I was just getting burned out of romance. So I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite, and much else to say about it. It just was not as great as I thought it was going to be. But if you enjoyed the series, I think you should give it a try. And I know my friend Rachel loved it, so I'm sure she's gonna roast me or something, but whatever. I'm sorry, Rachel. The next book I read was The Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. This took up a huge chunk of my time in January. It took me a very long time to get through this book. It was really hard to get into it in the beginning, and it kind of just was really slow for me and hard to just get into. And so I took a lot of breaks and didn't really want to pick it up a lot because I just was I just don't know how I'm gonna get through it. But I ended up attempting to do a 24-hour reading vlog. So I just forced myself to keep reading, and I ended up loving this book. So The Song of Solomon follows our main character, Milkman, which is his nickname. And we kind of watch him grow up, and then see him and his relationships with all of his family members develop throughout that period of time of him growing up and developing as a person. Towards the end, there's kind of like a mystery, what is kind of going on, what is the answer kind of situation at the end, which is just kind of made me just really intrigued. And I was like, what is going on? What is the story here? And I really liked how that did it. And it was really, really good at the end. I ended up reading this because of the Stacks podcast. This was her book club pick for, I don't know, I was real behind last year, but it was for one of the book club picks for last year. Still haven't gotten to the podcast episode. I really want to listen to that, which I think will add a lot of value to my reading, because just reading like the foreword in the beginning by Toni Morrison like breaks down like the first sentence of the book, and she breaks it down in like 2 pages. And I'm like, that was one sentence, and we took 2 pages breaking it down. So I'm sure that I missed so much stuff in that book because she is such like a literary genius that I just couldn't like wrap my head around everything. So I'm really excited to dive into that podcast, learn more about the book and like all of its hidden messages and meanings. And yeah, I'm really excited. All right, so the third book I read was Mediocre, The Dangerous Legacy of White Male America by Juma Aluo. And I read this because Jess Owens, and I'll link her below, has a nonfiction book club. And I really wanted to read more nonfiction this year, especially like kind of more current nonfiction. And I'd seen a lot of buzz about this one, and I just was really intrigued. And I listened to it as an audiobook, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought this was a really good nonfiction book, and it goes through a lot of different examples of how white male America is not only hurting like the people of color and females around themselves, but also like hurting themselves, like the white male. And so it was just really, really intriguing to read. I really was interested in, she has a whole chapter where she breaks down like Buffalo Bill. And it was just really fascinating to read because I just don't really think about that white maleness, I guess, centered during that time, which I mean, it was so centered. I just wasn't thinking about that, and I was not expecting that. So I really enjoyed that chapter. There's a lot of other just different examples where she pulls from, like the Bernie Bros. She talks about how like Black females in Congress are always like questioned by white males. It was just a really, really, really good read, and I really enjoyed her perspective and her words. So I really liked it. So I'd recommend it was a good nonfiction book to read. Can't believe I used to do more than 5 of these. I'm already tired. The next book I read was Wow, No Thank You by Samantha Irby. And I read this for my work book club, which for those of you watching and you're thinking about doing this for your book club at work, I would suggest don't, because this book gets a little like raunchy. It's like, whoa, I don't know how I want to feel about talking about this at work. It was really all good. It was all good. All the guys in our book club just didn't show up, so that made it easier. I personally loved Wow, No Thank You. I thought it was super funny. I thought it was really relatable and just great. Honestly, Wow, No Thank You is a collection of essays, kind of like a memoir, but more essays by Samantha Irby, and they're just funny essays about like moments in her life, things that she puts together. There's one essay that's literally just like, call 911 if, and then they're just like really minor inconveniences in your life, like call 911 if like your coworker doesn't go on mute. I just totally made that one up, but it's just like little minor things like that, and it was just a whole chapter of that, and I was dying because like, so there's just so relatable, and there are things when I like am in, like I'm doing that thing and that inconvenience comes up, I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst. This is so bad. So that was just so funny to read. She talks about getting her period as a young like girl in middle school, and I was like, yep, I understand what you're going through. That was the worst. It was just a really, really funny read, which was like kind of nice to have in January when it's just dark and gloomy and cold all month. So I liked it a lot. And the last book that I read was Butter, Honey, Pig Bread by Francesca Ikwazi. I'm not pronouncing that right. I read this for the Book of Sense book club, and this one was so good. This was a really, 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 really good book. This book follows 3 African women so there's 2 sisters and a mother. The sisters are twins, and we follow their we follow the mother's like journey of life from beginning and to becoming a mother, and then after becoming a mother. And then we follow the sisters like kind of their young girlhood, and then there's like this major thing that kind of tears them apart, and so we kind of are like leading up to that thing. And then after that we follow the sisters as they like after they break apart and then try to rekindle their relationship. And I just thought this was a beautiful, beautiful story about how this group of women like loved each other so much, but had so many things that they left unsaid that just like tore them apart. And I just feel like this is so like just something that I think that is just so interesting to see in family dynamics, because I feel like that's something that we can all relate to, where like there's so many things that are probably unsaid that are tearing us up the most than the things that are said. And I just thought that this was just so brilliant. I loved the character like fleshing out. I loved watching these characters like just develop on the pages. It was just beautiful. The story was put like so well together. And then one of the sisters is studying like culinary stuff, and so the chapters actually really do make sense, like in the book title. So the book title is Butter, Honey, Pig, Bread, and then the sections of the book are in that order: butter, honey, pig, bread. And then there's like a recipe that relates to each of those ingredients throughout each chapter. And I was like at the end of honey, I was like, oh, this makes sense. The butter mentioned in the first section makes sense now, why that was butter. This is honey. So took me a while to catch on, so don't be like me. I really, really love this book. I thought it was just a beautiful, beautiful story. Beautiful story of sisterhood, of womanhood, of growing up, of facing like tragedy and like roadblocks, and just being an adult and having to like figure out your shit, and going through like emotional family things. And just it was just I don't know, it was just a beautiful read. I really loved it. I kind of like took my time in the beginning of it, and then this past weekend I just sat down and just finished it all, and I just couldn't stop because it was just so good. I don't know. It was a really, really good read. Those were my books in January. I'm really feeling the reading bug again. I think my slump is done, so I'm really excited. So today is February 1st, so it is Black History Month, and there is the BLACKATHON going on. I don't really do readathons anymore. I can't keep up. I never follow the prompts, and I am like I'm just terrible at them. Okay, I'm very, very terrible. So I've given up. I've given up on them. But if you really, really enjoy readathons and following along and doing those prompts, they're super fun. It's put on by a great group of creators. The leader is Bowties and Books, and they did a great job of finding other co-hosts like Luxurious Blue, who I really enjoy watching, Chanelletime, and I didn't really recognize the other ones, but I'll make sure to put all the information down below. And I think that it's just a really cool readathon to do for Black History Month if you're interested and want to check that out. And remember, especially like as a white person, we're not just reading Black books in February, we're reading Black books all year round. So I definitely recommend like following these creators all year, getting book recommendations all year, reading Black all year. It just adds to your reading experience and lifts up those voices. I will leave all that information down below so you can check it out. And let me know in the comments below what you're going to be reading in February, what you read in January that you really enjoyed. I'd love to hear it. And like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you guys next time.